Oh shit, he's leaving. I'm starting the test now. Hope enough of these freaks have our SIM cards.
Just like the infidel you are. Save you now. You will eat your babies. You will drown in the blood of the Lord. He will not erase
Shit, I can't watch this. Get over it.
Harry, what the heck is going on?
Could you turn the volume down, please?
I didn't expect it to be that effective.
What kind of response are we talking?
100%.
So everyone's been affected, whether they have a SIM card or not. And we get the added benefit of wiping out the kingdom.
Not yet.
All right, Shalom, Yasharala Shalom, Mr. Brother Ibad coming back in the spirit. And as always, I want to give our praises to the Most High in the name of his only begotten son, Yahawashi. And I want to get into this video, and it's going to be a more in-depth video, basically explaining and breaking down and understanding how the powers that be, how they use hip-hop and musical frequencies to attack the Israelites. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing new under the sun. And y'all brothers, y'all can see that intro video in regards to Kingsman. This is a video I had first seen broken down by the brother Professor MGTOW. Shout out to him. Where he was basically stating how, you know, the solution that many people had taken, one aspect of taking the solution would be that if the frequencies around you were turned up, it can cause the people to go in a specific state. We don't know fully what that solution that was given to people over the last year and a half, is 2 years, is gonna do. But one theory is that, because when you brothers understand that your body is composed of what, 70 to 75% of water, water can be altered according to frequencies. And one of the main frequencies that, you know, this society uses outside of, you know, radio, well, you can just say radio frequencies, light wave frequencies, light frequencies, things like that, is the frequency through music, which is why I wanted to you know, screenshot that video so y'all can see how they were quote unquote turning up the dial, which put the people in a state of chaos and mass confusion. And ultimately I feel like that's going to be one of the main things that is going to allow people to dwell in the chaos, especially in the time when the powers that be are ready to spiral America into a state of civil unrest, whenever they're ready to essentially destroy this society and rebuild it from the ground up. But getting into the main point of this video, this was actually inspired because somebody had commented on a video that I had did the other day.
With
I'm gonna pull it up real quick.
It goes back to what I said. It's just they use music. First of all, they use crack as a way to break down the hood in the 80s. They're using music as a way to break down our communities now. It's digital crack, right? So you can't name a Jewish drill rapper saying, yo, I'm a kite, spin the block, bend the kite, kill a kite. You can't find a Chinese motherfucker talking about, yo, konnichiwa, kill it, yeah, yellow man, kill, yeah, kill. Fuck out of here. We the only culture that creates self-hate, destructive music, and we promote it and market it. It's about self-hate. It's systematic racism. You understand? So drill means kill. So how you think creates how you feel. How you feel becomes an emotion. That emotion becomes a vibration. That vibration becomes a magnet that attracts things to you. Life.
And basically, this was a video sent by one of my friends from the world, and you know, he's been kind of getting into different content. Now this is from a guy who goes by the name The Smart Rapper. I think his name is Max Perry, and apparently he's like somebody who was kind of exposed to the industries from the Bronx. And you know, if you listen to some of his videos, he does talk about, you know, exposing the industry to a certain extent in regards to like the bacchanalian rights, the gay activities that happen with rappers, how they, you know, have certain contracts and they gotta ultimately sell their soul. And when we mean by sell their soul, we mean obviously promote Luciferianism and worship pagan gods. Now he doesn't say it to that effect, But when you brothers have, the understanding according to the Bible of, the left hand, the right hand, and who the Bible is actually about, you can kind of put two and two together. So this was actually a comment. Somebody had commented on there right here, and he said, the government is responsible for drill rap. Is that what you're saying? You're comparing it to when they tried to destroy the black community with crack. Some of this is right. Can't blame them for that one. Crack, sure. And this is one thing that a lot of people don't understand in this society, is that first and foremost, the government is not your friend. As you brothers, probably have been exposed, probably through Chronicles, but just in general, when you start to do some understanding and you do some research on the government and how they took a lot of Nazi implants, a lot of Nazi operatives, Nazi scientists, and they started to, experiment on our community, not just our community, but all the different nations in the state of America as a whole, you understand that they did some wicked stuff, bro. They did some wicked shit. There's a video I have posted from this YouTube channel called The Memory Hole, and these are literal videos of the government giving people LSD, giving people acid, and experimenting on them and trying to alter their mind. This is the video right here. This is a video, CIA at misusing mind control. If our brothers haven't seen it, you can check it out. And basically there's like 2 or 3 different aspects where it's blatantly admitted a CIA operative or a former operative stated how the government ran, different experiments on unsuspecting people, whether they be in the military or whether they were, just random people, in Germany, in Europe, in America. They're experimenting them and trying to alter their mind. So this is no different. The industry of music is no different. And you have to be able to understand, again, you can't trust your enemy. And that's what most people don't understand, is that the government is their enemy. That's why when things like the jab and, the 1-9 epidemic happen, people are caught for a loop because they don't really understand what they're looking at. And ultimately, that's because the Most High is deluding them. So one aspect of understanding your enemy is understanding how he uses everything to, as a weapon against you, especially you being a Jake, you being a so-called black man. You have to understand one of the key aspects of our nation, of being an Israelite, is the aspect of music. When you read through Psalms, you see all the times that King David and his men, they had, a great orchestra, and they were constantly using instruments and praises to the Lord, whether they were high, whether they were low. I mean, you brothers can read through it. There's many accounts. And ultimately, that is one of the main ways how we worship and venerate the Most High Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. When you look at, especially in the 1800s, when you look at a lot of those slave Negro spirituals, they're talking about swing low, sweet chariot. You have to remember that music is another art form that can be used to venerate the Most High. And just like how the Most High creates a song through his books, whether it be through parabolic form through the prophets, or whether it be through Song of Solomon, through Proverbs and things like that, you have to understand that music is a spiritual art form, and it's spiritual through the lyrics, but also through the sound of the lyrics meeting the song. Meeting the musical instruments. So just like how that can be used to heal, the Most High will use that to heal. You have to understand that your enemy can use music to destroy you, to kill you, to ravage you and your community, because music is extremely, extremely powerful. I actually want to get into this article that I had read in regards to somebody who had mentioned how they had attended a secret meeting and how there was an agenda shift in the late 1980s, early 1990s when it comes to the music being promoted to the so-called black community. All right, so this is an article. It's titled "The Secret Meeting That Changed Rap Music and Destroyed a Generation." And this is an anonymous statement from somebody who claimed to be a part of, the music industry. Now, is there 100% irrefutable proof that this really happened or not? Well, it can't be stated because it's confidential and the guy speaks on it. But when you brothers start to understand the society, many things that are done in the dark, you're not going to be able to fully prove or research, but you have to have insight and you have to have cognitive dissonance to tell what's real from what's fake. When you understand how the effect of music happens on the people, you can clearly see that there is an agenda afoot. So me personally, while I may not have 100% proof that this article is true, when you read it, it makes 100% sense why this would happen. And when you look at the pattern of the government, of the prison industrial complex, of the rap industry, and how those two industries, the prison industrial complex and rap and hip hop are run by who? The Caucasian Jews, the Amalekites, right? Then you can kind of see and understand how they use this specific instance to enamor the so-called black community to a culture of violence, drugs, massive chaos. So let's get into it. It says the prison industrial complex is very profitable, and companies within the music and entertainment industries are reaping some of the profits. And we'll go down. It says the unsigned secret meeting letter below was originally posted on the blog Hip Hop is Red and was written by a self-proclaimed decision maker working for an equally anonymous major record label. So the article is based off somebody who worked for a major record label at the time when you can see that there was an apparent shift in hip hop and the theme of the music, right? It says the letter claims that the music companies invested in private prisons and conspired to glorify criminal activity through rap music to help fill prisons. The anonymous nature of this letter led many to dismiss it as a bogus piece of conspiracy theory. However, before you jump to the same conclusion, consider the fact that judges have been convicted and gone to jail for exactly the same thing that this letter claims happened. And I want to just go down specifically to the article. We don't gotta read about those judges. So this is it right here. This is the article. And y'all can look this up on YouTube if you guys just click on this, or I'll show you the actual link for the actual article that you can watch online on YouTube once I'm done reading this. It says, after more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making this story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who are present this day. So I've simply decided to leave out names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something that weren't ready for. Between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came from Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then. Since technology and media weren't accessible to people like they are today, the industry had more control over the public. And when you brothers understand in previous decades like the 40s, the 50s, but predominantly the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, you understand that there was no mass media, there was no www, you couldn't go on the internet, you couldn't go on YouTube and search up all this different information and have access to knowledge at your fingertips. Everything was cycled and centered around the TV. You had 4 or 5 different stations, you had 3 or 4 radio stations. So it was a lot easier for the powers that be to control the people and feed them whatever propaganda that they wanted. So basically, when you understand how the music industry was back then, it was very centered and it was very filtered. There was essentially a specific sound that they wanted people to hear and to be able to, allow to permeate in their subconscious mind. And for you to actually make it on the radio, if you didn't have a specific sound, a specific persona, you weren't getting any radio play, bro. It was pretty much that simple. So getting into this again. It says, this may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of music business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know that we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practice that I've ever seen. The meeting was held at private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people being there, most of them familiar faces. Speaking to those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap music and failed to see the purpose of being invited into a private gathering to discuss its future. Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be in our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign a confidentiality agreement preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued and in some cases disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on the matter and consequences, which stated that violating these terms would result in job termination. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but couldn't find anyone who had answered for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. No one stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me. A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected the agreements for us. So basically, there was a rap meeting being held on the outskirts of LA, and it was in reference to many different, I'm assuming, executives and business signalers or people who ran certain music group industries at that time. And there was going to be a non-disclosure, meaning that the things in this meeting wouldn't be known to the public, and if so, you could be fired, you could be terminated, and I'm guaranteeing you something of this magnitude will more than likely get you killed, you know. So getting into this, it says, quickly after the meeting began, one of my industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who introduced himself by first name and gave no further details about his background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but it was never confirmed. He briefly praised us for all the success we achieved in our industry and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable at the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. So long story short, the man of the hour was basically speaking on the aspect of how many rap executives, many hip hop executives, and many hip hop labels would have under the table, and I won't say under the table because you can invest in a private prison industry, a privately owned industry, a for-profit prison industry. You know, y'all brothers can trade on stocks. I think Jordan got some stocks in that, in privately owned prisons, right? But long story short, what they were doing is they were trying to work hand in hand with the hip hop and rap industry and the label heads. And when you look back and you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. When you look at modern day rap, the main rap that's being promoted, we always talk about how it's a culture of destruction, a culture of killing and degrading and drugs and trafficking, and it's over glorifying the criminal aspect in our community. Well, it makes sense why they would do that, because it's a way for them to get you into what? The prison industrial complex. Going back into what that original person commented, saying they don't understand how the government could be involved in something like that, just like how they were involved in, you know, sending crack to our communities. But again, there's nothing new under the sun. Trust not thine enemy. So getting into this, let's continue to read. It says, I remember many of us in this group immediately looking at each other in confusion. At the time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with us. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who received funding from the government based on a number of inmates. The more inmates, the more money the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken aback by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our question. He told us that since our employers had become silent investors in this prisons business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy personal stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" So basically getting into this, again, kind of reiterating what I had mentioned, how the prison industrial complex, they essentially partnered up with many of these rap executives and rap labels to promote debauchery and degrading music, promoting the lower level aspects of our culture, right? And you can obviously tell. You got rappers like NWA. They were some of the main ones. Let me think, who else? You got Tupac, you got Biggie, you got Jay-Z, you got Nas. In the 2000s, you got 50 Cent's G-Unit, Gangsta Unit, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. And I'm just talking about the 90s and 2000s. That's not even talking about 2010s, where essentially the rap industry has basically remarketed into a quote-unquote trap type of scene. But the main difference compared to back in the 90s and the 2000s is just, in my opinion, the level of the intellect of the rap has gone down so much worse. And it's now in the 2010s and 2020s, the sound is based off of the 808 and it's based off of the instrumental. Before, in my opinion, it was based off of the wordplay and then there was a hip hop beat. But I feel like in the 2010s and the 2020s, they've really mastered the frequency of the music, and how the frequency of the music synonymous with the 808s and the beats have essentially been mastered and perfected to bring mass enchantment and mass mind control onto the people based off of the music that they listen to. It's very obvious, So getting back into it, let's continue to read. It says, at this point, things became chaotic. Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted out and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled a gun and we all backed off. It separated us from the crowd and all four of us were escorted outside. My industry colleague who had opened the meeting earlier hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we signed the agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking about this publicly. And even with those who attended the meeting, I asked him why he was involved with something this corrupt, and he replied that it was bigger than the music business and nothing we'd want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested, and as he walked back into the house, I remember word for word the last thing he said. "It's out of my hands now. Remember, you signed an agreement." He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our cars and actually watched us until we drove off. And after this is basically just him talking about how he felt when he left, how he was kind of nervous. And then he goes over a summary of how he's seen rap changing. I'll read this last part right here. It says, as the months passed, rap music definitely changed direction. I was never a fan of it, but even I could tell the difference. Rap acts that talked about politics or harmless fun were quickly fading away as gangster rap started dominating the airwaves. Only a few months passed since the meeting, but I suspect the ideas presented that day had been successfully implemented. It was as if an order had been given to all major label executives. The music was climbing the charts, and most companies were more than happy to capitalize on it. Everyone was churning out their very own gangster rap act on an assembly line. Everyone bought into it, consumers included. Violence and drugs use became a central theme in most rap music. I spoke to a few of my peers in the industry to get their opinion on the new trend, but was told repeatedly that it was all about supply and demand. Sadly, many of them even expressed that the music reinforced the prejudice of minorities. I officially quit the music business in 1993, but my heart has already left months before. I broke ties with the majority of my peers and removed myself from these things I had once loved. I took some time off, returned to Europe for a few years, settled out of state, and lived a quiet life away from from the world of entertainment. And this is another one I want to read real quick. It says, as the years passed, I managed to keep my secret, fearful of sharing it with the wrong person, but also a little ashamed of not having the balls to blow the whistle. But as rap got worse, my guilt grew. Fortunately, in the late 1990s, having the internet as a resource which wasn't at my disposal in the early days made it easier for me to investigate what is now labeled the prison industrial complex. Now that I have a greater understanding of how private prisons operate, things make much more sense than they ever have. I see how the criminalization of rap music played a big part in promoting racial stereotypes and misguided so many impressionable young minds into adopting these glorified criminal behaviors, which often led to incarcerations. 20 years of guilt is a heavy load to carry, but at least now I can share my story, hoping that fans of rap music realize how they've been used for the past 2 decades. And I'm not going to continue to reading. Y'all brothers can do more research on the prison industrial complex if you want to get more understanding on it. And also, if y'all brothers want to actually hear the letter vocally, you can look up this video. It's called The Secret Meeting That Destroyed Hip Hop. And I wanted to actually read some of the comments. Let me see. This is it right here. It says, I can remember back in 1988 to 1993, the music definitely changed and drugs was pushed heavy in our community. Growing up in the inner city of Houston, crime was very high and the music matched the era. If you think that was a coincidence, that glorification of murder, drugs, and prison and rap songs, you are beyond lost. And I just wanted to go into the aspect of what somebody asked him. He said, what music were you guys listening to back in those days? Because I'm from Houston too. Was DJ Screw already making hits? And then he said, no, he wasn't listening to DJ Screw. Mostly NWA along with the West Coast rappers, Ghetto Boys, anything that had negative influences was being pushed. Before that, we had good house party and positive music. When 88 hit in my neighborhood, the kids put down the basketball, bikes, and footballs and started picking up drugs and guns. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Something definitely changed, and rap helped usher in their agenda. And, you know, there's other people co-signing what they're talking about. Y'all brothers can look at these comments and understand it as well. Again, that's the title of the video, The Secret Meeting That Destroyed Hip Hop. And really, when you see everything from a greater scheme and you look and you understand the narrative on why these things happen, it's not really a shock. It's not really surprising to you. And that's just going into the aspect of how the government uses the music to destroy people, because that's the history of it. But I want to really dig into the science of how it works. Because basically, when y'all brothers understand your mind, when you do some research, some psychology on your mind, you have your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is what's listening to me speak and being able to understand the words that I'm saying. But then you have your subconscious mind, your superconscious mind, which is picking up things that your mind won't actively tell you or show you immediately. Your subconscious and your superconscious mind is what they use to program you according to the lyrics. Because anybody can sit here and consciously hear a song like, let me think of a song about killing. I can't even think about nothing, bro. You know what I'm saying? But y'all brothers, when you listen, just put on a song like Eminem or whatever, bro. I mean, y'all brothers can get into it, bro, where they talking about killing niggas, NBA Youngboy, right? In your mind, you can consciously hear, okay, I'm gonna pull the stick out and shoot a nigga. And you know consciously in your mind that you don't feel like you're gonna do that, right? But subconsciously, the more you hear it, the more you hear the rhythm, the more you hear the pattern, the more you thought process it. It's like your diet. A lot of y'all brothers know you going to the store to eat bullshit. You go to In-N-Out Burger, or you go to Jack in the Box, you go to McDonald's. You consciously know that the food is bad, but you eat it and you just think, okay, it is what it is. But just like how food is a part of your diet and it affects you over time, music is a part of your mental diet and it affects you over time. Music is extremely powerful because, again, it messes with the frequencies in your mind, the frequencies in your body. That's why when you brothers listen to certain rap music like DMX and you listen to that rap, you start getting hype as hell, bro. Y'all can just hear me doing this over the YouTube video and you starting to get hype as hell. Or you might listen to a very slow, sad, depressing sort of song, and when you brothers is down and out in the spirit, you might start getting hella emotional. You might start thinking back, looking at certain things. Y'all brothers will notice when you're essentially very emotional, it makes it very easy for your spirit to get attacked by dark forces. You got to remember, this is a spiritual battlefield. And one of the key aspects of the spirit is emotion. So if you're not able to control your emotion, it's very easy for certain things to come into you and to program you and to make you think. Just like a puppet. A puppet is easily controlled when you can be emotionally manipulated. That's why the powers that be go towards the women. That's why the powers that be use the woman to attack the so-called black man, because the so-called black woman is the easiest emotional tie to get to you. She's the easiest emotional tie to get to you. Why? Because the woman was the main one in the household. The woman is the main one you see as an authority figure, and the woman knows how to emotionally manipulate and exploit a weak man who doesn't know how to deal with the woman. That's why they program you to be a simp. That's why they program you to fully trust and worship your woman. And I'm not saying that you can't love women, but you have to be able to see a woman for what she is. If she's not a woman that is there for your greater good, and most of these women, quite frankly, aren't. Most of these women in the world are harpies. Most of these women in the world see you as a tool and want to use you. If you're an emotional so-called black man and you can't see what most of these women are in front of you and how they can be used by your enemies to take you away, not only from thriving in this society, but more importantly, being in one accord with the Heavenly Father, you're going to get trapped in that thing. And a lot of these things are used to make you emotional, because when you're extremely emotional, the music is going to hit you differently. The music is going to internalize. If you brothers is emotional and you start listening to Pop Smoke, bro, I'm going to go call you niggas war. You can check the score. We up on our board. Like, he talking about killing dudes and hitting niggas, bro. When you listen to Tupac, hit him up. We hit him up. You know what I'm saying? He got that certain emotion. And that's one thing that gifted artists know how to use. They know how to use their voice, and they know how to instill a certain amount of emotion and rage to get the listener to feel what they're feeling. You see what I'm saying? If you have, and that's ultimately enchantments, and that's ultimately witchcraft. The best artists, if you ever notice, they are those who are able to get you to feel the emotion and the pain of the song and get you to feel an emotion. But one thing that these music labels in these prison industrial complex CEOs and executives want you to do is they want you to internalize the music to go out and commit crimes, to go out and sell drugs. Think about drug dealing. When you hear the feeling of drug dealing, you get emotional, dog. You watching Paid in Full. You watching what's another drug dealing movie? Scarface. I'm gonna use Paid in Full because that's mostly Jake's out in that movie, right? And basically, bro, when you understand it, you starting to look at Ace. You like, man, my nigga Ace, man, he came down from a low life, bro. He's starting to stunt, and then you see Rico kill, what's the dude name? I can't Mitch, and you see the aspect of him going down. It's like a soap opera, man. You get so involved in it. But when you a young boy, you're like, man, I want to be like that nigga Ace, man. I want to live in that lifestyle, bro. I want to do those things, and it's just essentially backed up with rap artists, because the same thing that you see in movies, many of these rap artists, they personify that image in real life. Lil Baby, Gunna, Young Thug, the Rico charges, that lifestyle of crime and narcotics. Future, who else? Lil Wayne, bro, having all them guns, showing NBA Youngboy. Why you think they always got to keep these brothers in the news with all these charges and all these things coming upon them? Because they understand that most so-called most so-called black men, Jake boys, young Jake men, they see those men and they idolize them. Those are the leaders of the people. Again, the scriptures say the leaders of this people cause them to error. That is what you're seeing played out in 2020. And it's been going on for the last 30 to 40 years. So that's why music is a programmer of your subconscious mind to get you to move after a lifestyle that is based off of crime. So no, the music may not cause you to physically do that and pick up a gun and kill a nigga, but the music oftentimes programs you and is a way for demons to control your thoughts and lead you into that aspect. And I'm gonna kind of break it down some a little bit more. I want to get into the aspect of hypnosis, the aspect of affirmations, because one thing that I learned when I was in sales is I had to learn how to reprogram my mind from thinking that I couldn't sell, I didn't have any confidence, and I had to build it up. Sometimes you can internally build this up through life experience, but other times there's many cheat codes that certain people would use to build up these traits and these abilities. I'm explaining it real quick. All right, so just so y'all brothers can see right here, this is a page called Rockstar Affirmations. And this is something that I used to watch when I was in sales, when I was doing door-to-door sales. And it helped me build up my confidence, because when I was doing sales, I didn't have much confidence and I had a lot of doubt in my abilities, but I needed to succeed. So one thing that a lot of people would tell you, and I've read a lot of different books. You know, I've read the book like, I don't know if y'all brothers are familiar with Napoleon Hill. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich. He also had another book called Outwitting the Devil. There's another book in sales called The Psychology of Selling. And one thing that many of these authors oftentimes showed you was there's certain cheat codes to the mind. If you learn how to reprogram your mind, you can quote unquote achieve anything. And that's based off of the law of attraction. Even in the Bible, the scriptures do say, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, meaning whatever you think in your mind is what you become. So there is an aspect of control that we do have when it comes to our thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like in Proverbs, it says life and death comes in the power of the tongue. So what you say can oftentimes become your reality. But the main issue with modern times, with modern day Luciferianism, is the aspect that most people are playing into their own vanity and their own narcissism to give them their own, to make them feel as if they have their own power to change their life, instead of understanding that the Most High on a greater scale controls these things. And ultimately it's up to the Most High whether or not you will succeed and excel. But a lot of people are being deceived into thinking that according to their own ability, they're the reason why they succeed or fail. And one of the main aspects whenever you read these books like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, I Would and the Devil, there's many other books, is the aspect of changing affirmations. You know, some people, they would have a list of affirmations like, I am rich, I'm a megastar, I will accomplish whatever I want. And this is one thing that I used to listen to in sales, and I want y'all brothers to kind of listen to it real quick, right?
I am a master salesman. I am a selling genius. I was born to sell. I was born to be the best at selling. I can sell anything to anyone.
So for those of y'all brothers who kind of heard it, it's like a 10-15 seconds, and you see how there's multiple voices. It's because your mind on a super conscious level, on a subconscious level, it can pick up multiple voices. Your mind is like a supercomputer. So while you may be only able to listen and comprehend to one specific sentence, like I am a great salesman, even though there's two other salespeople voices in the background, your mind can pick up all of that. And that's basically how your mind works on a subconscious level. Why is it that when you're driving, you can hear your phone chirp and you're texting, but then at the same time while you're texting, you still remember how to drive? Because the supercomputer of your mind has already programmed you to know how to drive without consciously thinking about it, right? Just like when you're driving and you're listening to music, you may not even be paying attention to the music, but the message is still getting programmed into your mind. And if you're not careful, those messages become enchantments, especially if the Most High is not protecting you. Because Numbers 23:23 says that no enchantment, no divination will affect the children of Israel. But if the Most High is not protecting you, if you're a person in the world, then these spellcasts that come upon these albums and these songs and things like that will more often than not affect the people, the masses of the people, which is why you see it happening every day. You got city girls this, city girl that. So essentially, you know, getting back to the main point, what I would do is I would listen to these affirmations, right, daily, and I would listen to them when I went to sleep. And oftentimes, one of the things that they have, I couldn't pull up the video, but essentially another way that you can enhance the affirmation is to listen to the affirmations while listening to music. Because with music, you have a certain rhythmic pattern, a rhythmic tune. You know, whenever you learn in school, they would often say, hey, you know, a good way for you to remember things is to make like an ad hominem, like little Sally went to town, na 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 na. Just like with ABC, they have it in the song ABC. You know what I'm saying? The reason why they do it is because it's easier for you to remember the message. So when you got NBA YoungBoy with a popular ass hook, or you got Drake with a popular hook, like girls on girls where I'm from, girls like girls where I'm from, I guarantee you, bro, all the millions and millions of chicks out there who heard that song, oh my God, it's Drake. And now they're having they're having thoughts permeating in their mind that they like girls just like them. Why do you think there's so many transformers? Why do you think there's so many flamboyant men? Why do you think there's so many masculine women? Because they're listening to these witches and they're listening to these musicians, and witches is pretty much synonymous, and they're listening to the messages and they're internalizing it. And as we start to go towards the end, closer and closer, those spells are going to get stronger and stronger from the left-hand path. You see what I'm saying? But if you have some type of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, the Most High is going to show you, and he's going to reveal to you the power of these songs and how they can come upon people. You see what I'm saying? So getting back into it, you have to understand how music mixed with affirmations can alter your mind. And also one aspect of music that they get into, well, I'll get it, is that they get into how do I explain this the right way? Drugs. Because remember, what did the CIA do with MK Ultra? What did they do? They try to promote what? Acid, LSD. When you look at A$AP Rocky, let's actually pull up that real quick. This is a song by A$AP Rocky, LSD, Love, Sex, Dreams. And again, when you look at a lot of these rappers and their messages, they oftentimes promote a lot of drug use. So you can see right here, we got Travis Scott stargazing. And y'all understand that Travis Scott is one of the most blatant Luciferian and satanic artists and witches in the industry, right? Y'all understand about that seance, that ritual, that spell cast that he put on his people, which caused people to what? Be trampled and killed at a concert. Come on, dog. But this is one of the albums that he came out with in 2018. And this is when I was in the world. I listened to this called Astro World. And a lot of Travis Scott's, songs are heavily based off of the frequency of the instrumental and the frequency of the sound, and how he oftentimes uses his voice to put you in a mind-altering state, which is why when you go to these concerts, when you go to a lot of these different events, they want you to what? Get high. Rolling. I'm rolling off a pill. I'm rolling off a beam. And just from my experience, I know certain things about those things. I did some of these things in the world, and I know how it can cause your mind to be altered, and how you can go into a state and you can move into another reality. Acid, shrooms, you know what I'm saying? LSD, even weed. A lot of brothers don't understand the potency of weed. When you smoke that shit, it can alter your mind, especially when you smoking that synthetic weed. You going to the dispensary and getting that stuff, bro. That stuff is not good for your mind. And that's why oftentimes when you take it, a lot of times you'll have many weird, strange thoughts. You'll be paranoid, and you'll allow certain, spirits to come into you to alter your conscious mind. So when you brothers understand the potency of the music and how powerful the music is, that's why you can say that it's being used as a weapon to attack our community. And the last thing I want to get into is a video. It's actually a real good video. I want y'all brothers to check it out.
And then the algorithm, you know what I'm saying? The 808. The 808 exists in the lowest chakra of your body. The majority of content that's related to the 808 is killer or sexual content. The original 808s was even off pitch. So that meant it's an actual sound in the track that you don't realize is there that is up your entire frequency. And now today, every time I hear a car come out, it's 808. But if you think about African music and hip hop and what we was breakdance to, it was light.
The percussion.
It was upbeat. It was the drums.
What's the signature of trap music? Beats, drum beats, them 808s. Produce low frequency sound. Its signature is low frequency sound in that 808 drum beat. The low frequency drum beat. And remember, how do shamans create altered state of consciousness? In indigenous cultures, it's the drum beat. The drum is the tool to drive one into altered states of consciousness. So
and I wanted to stop right there because some of y'all brothers understand I have a little bit of background in music. And one thing about music is when you start to mix and produce it, you can kind of tell the different sounds. Like when you train your ear to be able to hear the different frequencies, you can understand what he's talking about. I want to show y'all something. So this is a little sonic app, and basically I would use this so that way I can hear different frequencies in the music, so I can know what I need to edit in, edit out, etc. But whenever y'all brothers listen to this, you can tell that the frequency that's being heard in your ear can affect you. Like, listen. And I don't know if y'all can hear that. I don't know if y'all can hear and understand that. But basically, essentially, when you see how, you see at the bottom how it's kind of like a wave, because that's essentially what happens in your body when you hear certain things come into your body auditorially. So one thing you have to understand is based off of the frequency level, there's many things that can affect you. That's why y'all brothers are familiar with 432 hertz, 440 hertz, because depending on the pitch of the sound of the beat, it can bring into you certain emotions and certain effects that can affect and alter your mind state and alter your mental mind. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to get too in depth with it, but just kind of giving y'all a little minor background. I want to go back into the video. He kind of explains a little bit more how these things work.
808 machine, the signature of hip hop.
Right.
The drum beat that most of the 808 beats are in low frequency. Trap music is 808, it resurrected 808 beats. Because now the words are the command message.
Right.
The hypnotic command message.
Moving back towards the weaponization of hip hop and music overall, are there certain frequencies in music that can promote health and healing?
Absolutely.
And what are those frequencies?
So, I often mention, when I mention testosterone, I mention serotonin. And I mention these two as the two biochemical sources of a man's drive for power. But serotonin, the brain chemical serotonin, is necessary for mental health for men and women. One reason women suffer from depression in numbers that men are. One of the reasons is the disparity in brain serotonin. Serotonin promotes mental health. 10 hertz. So say, God can use Beats by Dre as well as Satan can. So say this song I'm grooving to, 230 hertz is beamed into my right headphone, 220 is beamed into my left. That my brain was synchronized to a phantom 10 hertz. And 10 hertz is precisely the frequency that stimulates the production of serotonin. The reason 4 hertz is the specific fear frequency, because 4 hertz stimulates serotonin's opposite, noradrenaline. Testosterone, the opposite of testosterone really is an estrogen. It's cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone that neutralizes the effect of testosterone. The opposite of serotonin is noradrenaline. 10 hertz is the magic frequency to stimulate the production of serotonin. The devil knows that. The devil knows how to stimulate good, healthy biochemistry with music. He also knows that 4 hertz stimulates the production of noradrenaline. And what's the difference between the two? It's important. Serotonin is one of the functions of serotonin is as a chemical lid on our passions. With a healthy dose or amount of brain serotonin, we are masters of our impulses rather than slaves of our impulses. We can control.
So basically, I don't know if y'all brothers really understand. You got to do a little bit of background research into the chemicals that he's talking about. Serotonin is a chemical in your brain that can stimulate happiness and pleasures. Y'all obviously understand what adrenaline is. That's the chemical that can stimulate fight or flight. You know, when you brothers is in a certain situation, somebody may be trying to run up on you. You may be in an unfamiliar characteristic and you got to kind of activate your animal primal instinct to be able to defend yourself. Basically, he's saying when he says the devil knows these things, what he really means by it and what we understand is the powers that be, they have these frequencies down to a T. So essentially what they can do with certain beats and certain songs is that they can play with the different frequencies to stimulate the chemical makeup in your brain. and based off of a certain sound, they're able to regulate the amount of dopamine or serotonin that you hear from a song, and they can elicit certain responses, which is why, again, when y'all brothers go into certain environments like the club, you ever notice why certain niggas get buck wild and act crazy in the club? It's kind of like they got, like this, I know this might sound kind of offensive, but when you really look at it, it makes sense. Kind of like when you go into a zoo, right? When you have certain animals in a zoo in a habitat, and you start to stuff a lot of lions or a lot of monkeys, and you start to overpopulate that specific environment, what oftentimes happens, they give a certain sound and they cause the animals to start to go buck wild and to attack one another. Well, you can kind of parallel that to when you go into a club and you got that loud ass bass ass music, you got the women acting so vain and trying to over glorify themselves, the lower aspects, you got the niggas staring at you, giving you the wide eye, and they understand that these things, these environments can help, how do I put this, not rectify, but reiterate the programming that they have. Because when you go to different clubs, when you go to different bars, bro, I promise you, there are different vibes in different scenes. A lot of times when you go to so-called black clubs, there is a higher energy and people is having more fun and dancing because that's just our culture, that's our nature. But you oftentimes see the more violent and the more reckless aspects of these environments when they listen to the music, because our people, we've become a more emotional people. We become more of a people where you can play certain things and have certain harmonies and certain tunes to alter our state. And that's what he's getting into when you look at it, right?
Our passions, our appetites. Serotonin is necessary to put the brakes on our appetites. Noradrenaline, if serotonin puts the brakes on our appetites, noradrenaline pushes the accelerator. So with high noradrenaline, it puts the battery in all of our impulses, all of our passions. So low serotonin, high noradrenaline, we are an impulsive. I am an impulsive person. I'm unable to control my passions and I act on all of my impulses. Right. 4 hertz and so.
And I just want to get into that because based off of the chemical makeup that can be stimulated with the music, it can make you much more impulsive. And y'all brothers understand, when you make impulsive decisions in this world, it often leads to death. Whether it might be making a baby because you listening to some crazy love music, you just want to go into the chick, go into the bra without wearing a condom. Whether it may be you on the streets, you listen to certain music, you got certain beef with certain niggas, and instead of you just having a cool mind, you want to go stomp the nigga out. You want to go and get your gun, shoot, spin the block. How many times have you seen dudes trying to spin the block based off of listening to certain songs that they've heard? I mean, brother, it's just so apparent and it's so obvious. And when you start to understand it on a micro level, it makes sense.
Oh, we are a very impulsive community. The community that is being low frequency vibrations from our music, the community that's been made an ecology of fear. Why an ecology of fear? Because most of us walk around not knowing what phantom 4 hertz in our brain. And so our noradrenaline is stimulated and it cuts off our serotonin. They can make sure they can stimulate in us our serotonin by producing in us phantom 10 hertz frequencies, but our reality is proof that they have decided to stimulate in us or produce in us a phantom 4 hertz frequency, because every black community or every hood from one end of America to the other is an ecology of fear. The urban area, the suburbs, they are ecologies of peace and flowers and health.
Right.
The urban area is an ecology of fear and stress. It's not an accident. It's by design. It's environmental terrorism.
And I mean, when it comes to what he's talking about, brothers and sisters, I mean, ultimately, it's deeper than just that. But I wanted to just really illustrate the aspect of how the music can be used to weaponize and control your emotional state to cause a people who have been, you know, oppressed, who have been disenfranchised, who have been emotionally manipulated and tested on for decades and decades, how the modern day music, similar to what the brother said at the beginning video, the brother the smart guy, smart raps or whatever, how he said that we're being given digital crack. The music is essentially in the form of a drug as digital crack, because what does a drug do? It alters your mind state. It causes you to go into a different reality, and oftentimes a drug allows you to do things that you normally wouldn't do in your normal state of conscious. And that's the same thing as what rap is doing today. Now I want to go and skip into this another aspect of the video.
The baseline of hip-hop music. These doctors successfully powered a medical device with the vibration, the acoustic frequency emanating from the beat of hip-hop music. Now, they tried various music genres to power that medical device. It was hip-hop with its bass line that most effectively powered the device and healed, participated in the healing process of the body. What does that say? A number of things. This is an example of the divine power of music. Music is divine. This is an example of the divine power of hip hop. God comes to heal his people. God is a healer. The healing power of hip hop in particular. And it's important that they tested various genres of music, right, but nothing was effective in empowering a batteryless medical devices like the rhythmic bass of hip hop. So hip hop by nature is divine. But when the devil gets his hands on it, when the devil takes that which is created divine and weaponizes it for his purposes. So I want to pivot. So that's hip hop.
Right.
Wow. See, people don't want to believe that white people and black people are different. Our music is the greatest illustration on a root level of the difference between black people and white people. So,
and I just wanted to say that because, again, you understand that, no, we're not all the same. No, we don't all have the same composition. And the brother was basically just explaining how, you know, they did a scientific study in regards to using the sound of hip hop and how it can be used to heal. Again, life and death is in the power of your tongue. You know, and I make a lot of videos on music because, first and foremost, I love music. You know, again, my dream, and, you know, I don't want to make this about me, but one of the main things that I hope and pray that I can do, Lord willing, if I make the kingdom, is have a crazy music studio session, you know, and just, you know, vocalize my love for the Most High, vocalize my love for Yahawashi, and vocalize my love for the people. And, you know, obviously our brothers know I make music. I don't, you know, it's necessarily promote it out there like I used to, but I still make the music. But when you understand how powerful the music, again, with great power comes great responsibility. And when you gain more knowledge and wisdom and you understand how the music can be used for wickedness, you don't want to be a part of that. Because you don't want to be the brother that Yahawah is talking to on Judgment Day. And Yahawashi comes up to you and he says, so, okay, so you knew about the truth, you knew about the wisdom of the Bible, and you know, you want to be a musician, you want to be an artist, but at the same time you were still, you know, abiding in the evil wickedness of ways of the modern day rap music. You didn't want to change it because you wanted to keep your fame, you want to keep your glory, and ultimately you wanted to continue to go on the way up according to your own lust and according to your own mind. You know, I don't want to be a part of that, and I pray that none of you brothers, any of you brothers who have musical talent, you don't want to be a part of that either. So when you understand these things, you understand how you need to use your sword, because your mouth is your sword, and you don't want to cut off and destroy something that can be used in the Most High's kingdom, in the Most High's movie set, because you're being reckless with your tongue. Understand the power of music and use it for light, not for evil. So with that being said, as always, I want to give our praises to the Most High Yahawah in the name of His only begotten Son Yahawashi. Peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect. Until next time, it's the brother Ash Ibad signing out.